something kind of pretty simple, but just something that either you drag racers should be doing or guys that are tuning on your own stuff should be doing. We're going to make a spark plug holder, so that way when you're done with the pass, you're done with your dyno pools, you can pull all your spark plugs out and put them in a, something to organize them with. So I have this, piece of aluminum square that I had laying around. It's just some scrap and some stuff that I got, from friends and stuff. But it makes a good organizer. So I'm gonna take you with me along on that journey. Shouldn't take too long. We're just gonna, cut it to size on the bandsaw, drill some holes in it, and then I have some numbered stamps that I'm gonna actually stamp the aluminum with. But they're not here yet, so we're gonna get through that. But while we're doing it, we're gonna talk about the importance of just checking your spark plugs. Okay, so we're gonna touch on that. This is not a video on telling you how to tune your car or what your spark plug should look like, because truthfully, every combination is a little bit different. Depends on what fuel you're running, what kind of racing you're doing, or what, if it's a street car, drag car, all that stuff takes into account. So we're not going to go too deep into that. But we are going to touch on the importance of making sure that you understand what is going on, because no matter what your O2 sensor says, or if you have EGTs, your spark plug is your eye into the combustion chamber. That is the tell-all, end-all, be-all. So let's dive right in. And today I'm going to put you guys on a head mount, and we're going to do something. We're going to try that instead of the shoulder mount. We'll see if that turns out any better. It doesn't look like many people watch the shoulder point of view, so that video didn't turn out good. So we're going to try it a different way. So let's dive right in. All right. Hopefully you can see my hands. We're going to get the bandsaw adjusted. And this is my template spark plug. So that way you guys can kind of just get an idea of what we're doing. Just going to be stacking 8 of them on here, equally spaced apart. So for today's topic of conversation, let's assume that you guys have a drag car, right? Like that's typically what I do the most is drag racing. So that's what I'm most familiar with, other than like, street car stuff. So when you got a drag car, in my personal opinion, unless this is, like a pretty mild combination, you're not making a lot of power. If you have an all-out drag car, you should be pulling, at the very least, 1 spark plug every time that thing makes the trip. So, if you're not doing that, I would love to know why you feel like you don't have to do that. Because, you can look at your data log, and like I said, a lot of guys have O2 sensors now. You have EGT, you have all kinds of different data, and that's great. You should have all that, because that's, that gives you more information, right? More information is better. So anyway, like I was saying, more information is always better. So, when you pull your spark plug out of your motor, the first thing you ought to be looking at is your strap and, the top, we'll call it the top ring of the spark plug. So when I say top ring, what I'm really talking about is this right here, all the way around. Now, this spark plug, as you can see, was run on a gasoline motor. This actually came out of the Corvette. This spark plug has street miles on it, has a lot of idle time, has drag passes, so this really is not a good indication of, what's going on in the motor, other than the fact that when I pulled it out, it was fat. And the reason that it was fat is because when I pulled it out, I idled it out of the trailer and into the garage, and it was cold because it was last winter. These are last year's plugs. So, So don't mind the coloring on this. Like I said, if your spark plugs come out looking like this, you got way too much fuel or not enough timing, or you got something else that's going on. But you should be like on a dyno run, or whether it's an engine or chassis, or you're at the drag strip. You should be pulling these out after every pass. You want as little run time on them in regards to like burnout or idle or shutdown. Like if you can do it, you should be shutting your car down as soon as you lift off the gas, or even slightly before. So again, don't look at the color of this. Let's just talk about the parts, right? So you have the strap, you have the electrode, which is right here, and then this is the porcelain here, and then you have what I call the top ring of the plug. So anyway, let's get this set up here real quick. Let's figure out what we got going on. All right, so we got a 5-inch piece. We got to do 4 plugs. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. And how wide is this thing? It's 4-inch. So we'll go 1 inch in from each side. Perfect. And on a fabrication note, a straight line is your best friend. So, and then in case anybody's wondering, this is a 7/16 drill bit. So that's what size we're going to make these. I am going to start with a pilot hole though. I'm not going to go ramrodding this right through there. So, but anyway, so that's what we're talking about. Let's talk, you guys need to be paying attention to what your spark plugs are doing, or what's going on inside your engine, because you never know. You might catch, the pass might have felt great. That car might have gone the fastest it's ever gone. But if you don't check the spark plug, you could have melted the strap. You could have blown the strap completely off of it. There's all kinds of things that could happen. In a pass that to your butt dyno felt great. You could have got a killer time slip, but you got to open these motors up, guys. Don't be afraid to get in there, learn something, have questions, ask somebody. There's a lot of good articles out there and a lot of good YouTube videos about reading spark plugs. So I'm not going to make this video all about reading spark plugs. We're really just talking about the theory behind it. And I figured it was a good opportunity to kind of share my thoughts on it. Whether you agree with them or not, it's no big deal. If you guys think I'm wrong, let me know. Tell me why I'm wrong. I'd be interested to hear what your theories are. I've heard a lot of them, right? Like, oh, it's tuned, you shouldn't have to. Well, that's true, but depending on what kind of car you're building, you may have something out there that's pretty violent. If you got something that's, let's face it, guys. Nowadays, an 850 car is like really not all that fast anymore. But it still takes a pretty good amount of horsepower. Horsepower might be easy to do. Let's center punch these while we're doing this.
regardless. You know, it might be easy to make enough horsepower to go 850s, but can you do it? Can you do it in succession? You know, can you do it? Can you do it all weekend long? You know, this is it's important stuff. You know what I mean? If you guys got race cars, I'm sure you want them to be consistent. You know, every time you take them out of the trailer, you know, you want that thing to run at its absolute best, and it starts with, you know, knowing what's going on inside your engine. You know, and while we're talking about spark plugs, you know, if you pulled your plug out at the end of the pass like this and it looked like this, I got to tell you, you're leaving power on the table. So you could probably get, you know, another tenth or two, or, you know, depending on how rich it is, maybe even more. You know, you could probably pick up a good amount of ET or mile an hour, you know, if you got your engine running a little better. You know, and for the guys that don't do any of their own tuning, you know, and you email back and forth with your tuner, or, you know, you get him on the phone and he helps you with, you know, he does your tuning remotely. Having a picture of the spark plug, I'm sure any good tuner is going to want to see that stuff. That's information that they want to know. So, you know, hopefully you guys already know this, but just in case for the guys that don't, or the guys that might be getting in it, you never know. You know, thankfully I had a pretty good teacher, and I got to learn on somebody else's car. But, you know, it's something that that's something my dad preaches on, is checking your spark plugs on a consistent basis. And you know, I think it served us well pretty over the years. You know, his car runs damn good for being you know, being a small motor dominated by, you know, being a small motor in a class that's dominated by big motors. So, you know, keep that in mind, guys. You know, everybody gets all wound up about sensors and, you know, having this and having that, and, you know, sometimes all that stuff is good. You know, and I'm gonna be putting a lot of it on my car. You know, I'm gonna start out running it, you know, O2s, and, you know, I'm gonna have a Holley Dominator, like I said before, and I'll have all kinds of inputs and sensors and all that stuff. And, you know, the sensor that is the most critical, right, isn't even a sensor. It's your spark plug, which seems basic, but, you know, it's an important thing to know. And like I said, even if you don't have 100% confidence in you know, in knowing what you're looking at, or, you know, what to do with that spark plug after you've pulled it out, it's still good to know. You know, you may catch something. You know, if you're doing it in between rounds, you may catch something that you know, might cost you the next round, or might cost you an engine, right? And with parts availability and everything nowadays, it's crazy. I mean, you know, I know guys that waited a year, you know, for a block or for cylinder heads, and, you know, I'm talking to other people in the industry, and they're not having any luck. You know, they're you know, parts and material and just overall stock is just getting really hard to get. So, you know, if you can save yourself, I mean, you could potentially save yourself thousands, right? It is absolutely, let's lock that down a little better. And guys, even a simple project takes the right amount of finesse. It's a look. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but it's not making round holes currently. That's a little better, but I still don't like that. I guess this is the problem with using drill bits and stuff that's not that thick. Yeah, this is only 1/8 inch. So what do I got for step bits? Yeah. Alright, let's let's change our drilling method here. Excuse the phone. I'll call that guy back later. So anyway, long story short, guys, let's pay attention to your spark plugs. Put in the extra effort, because in the long run, it'll pay off. You know, and like I said, you can, if you don't have the fabrication tools, or you know, you don't see the value in making one of these things yourself, that's fine. You know, there's some out there, you can buy one, and really you don't even need something as, you know, something this serious. You know, I mean, like, you can do it with cardboard. You know what I mean? Take a marker and cardboard and, you know, hammer it out like that. I just figured I would do this little project real quick, because it gives me an opportunity to talk about a subject that I would say I'm pretty passionate about. You know, I think that reading Sparkplugs is important, and I think that anybody that runs a successful program, you know, does that. I think that, you know, if you guys look at, you know, anybody that, you know, it starts from, you know, it starts at the top. You know, the top fuel guys, I'm sure they read their spark plugs. I don't know any of them personally, but you know, I'm sure that their tuners and their crew chiefs are looking at that stuff. You know, Pro Mod, you know, and all the way down. You know, there's there really isn't a reason to not look at your spark plugs. I mean, truthfully. So keep that in mind as you guys are building all these fire-breathing monsters. My unibit's a little dull. You're kind of pushing the aluminum around instead of cutting it. That's alright. We'll get her cleaned up. No big deal. Now that I got the hole, I'll get the holes roughed out, and then we'll hit them with the other drill bit real quick. See if that cleans them up. We're just gonna mess with it a little bit, you know. And for you guys that don't do any of your own tuning, if you take your motor to an engine dyno or to a chassis dyno, and your tuner comes to you and at the end of the session he says, okay man, you're good to go, you made X horsepower and this thing's ready to rip, and if he didn't pull a single spark plug, I'm going to be honest with you guys, you might want to find a new tuner, because I find that guys that don't look at spark plugs and don't see the value in it, they end up really not being all that good. And that's not, you know, I'm not bashing anybody, I'm not, you know, that's not what I'm talking about, but you know, you know, myself and you know, I'm sure all of you guys out there, you guys work real hard to make the money to be able to go out and even have something that, you know, you can have this discussion about. So, you know, if you guys are like, if you know, and I used to be that guy, right? And I still, and hey, and I'm not above it, right? Like, I may get to a point with this dragster where I'm like, you know what? Too fast. You know, I might need to seek some outside help, you know? But I can guarantee you, I'm going to be doing my own research, and you know, I'm going to be looking at Sparkplugs either, you know, along with whoever I decide to help me with my program, because that's essentially what it is. You know, your race car is your program, right? Like, you can't just, like, these cars are getting so fast, and not just dragsters. I mean, I'm street cars. I mean, there's, and you guys might even have, there's street cars out there that, you know, that make 1,500 horsepower, you know what I mean? And they get in them and they drive them to the grocery store and they do all kinds of other stuff. I mean, like, the amount of technology that we have access to is insane. It absolutely blows my mind sometimes when I sit back and think about it, or I get to talking to people that I meet, or, I mean, there's guys out there that have, you know, 6 and 7 second drag cars that drive them on the street. And, you know, I don't mean like drive them on the streets like, oh, look, I went and did a burnout on the street, it's a street car. I mean, like, you know, like I said, they're taking them to grocery stores, you know, they're taking them on, you know, these drag and drive events. I mean, there's so many cars doing those things now, and it's super impressive. I mean, just to get a car, you know, just say it's an 850 car, just to get an 850 car to survive a whole week of highway driving and stopping here and stopping there, I mean, that's a serious accomplishment in my book. Alright, so that's dirty on the inside. Get our mini belt sander out, get our compressor fired up. It's gonna get loud here for a second, guys, so I apologize, but it's a necessary evil. My belt's seen better days. You know what? Let's change this thing, because that's going to take forever. Oh, duh. If it was any closer to me, it would have bit me, guys. Literally in the box that said belt sander. There we go. So anyway, guys, like I said, check your spark plugs. And I understand, like, you know, different combinations out there. You're like, bro, it takes me, you know, an hour or two to change spark plugs in my car. And I understand that, right? Like, I've had cars like that, or worked on cars like that. So just pull one, pull two, pull the ones that are the easiest for you to get to, you know, or that you might, you know, like on an LS car, I know with some of these manifolds, and I'm sure we're going to touch on it in the future, you know, they pack the back two cylinders with air, right? So like 7 and 8, you know, they can be problem child, you know, and they can, you know, those two cylinders, you know, as that air's coming through your manifold, and, you know, I'm sure mine's going to have a similar, you know, issue, but you know, they really get the most airflow. So you got to make sure that your fueling and your timing in those cylinders, you know, is on point, right? Because if you're only looking at the front two, you know, or the ones that are easiest for you to get to, you know, that might not be telling the whole story. You know, these, especially when you're talking about something, like I said, my goal with this car is to go in the sixes. So when you're talking about something that goes that fast, you got to try and keep an eye on as many variables as humanly possible. And checking your spark plugs is it's an easy one to do, you know. So look at your spark plugs, build yourself a holder. Like I said, it can be the aluminum, it can be steel, it can be anything. It really doesn't matter. This is really just a topic of conversation. So check your spark plugs, make a holder, find out. And that is the end of this video. It's going to be my last video of 2021. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I hope to see every one of you at a drag strip. If not, film it so I can watch it later on YouTube. See you later, guys.